Kia ora. Well, I'm just going to pick up on the reducing the overrepresentation of Māori theme in justice. So we've heard from corrections and police already, as you could imagine, and it appears to me that they have a severe lack of targets, no targets for reducing anything to do with overrepresentation of Māori. Again, it produces a couple of problems, obviously. If you've got staff of 10,000, 15,000, they don't know what the target is, and it's hard to measure how much effort to put into it. But given the long-standing nature of this problem, overrepresentation of Māori throughout the justice system, and given that you're the parent, the overarching arm of that, what performance measures do you have in place for the Ministry of Justice as the responsible party for corrections and police? You know, what performance measures do you have in place for yourself and for the others to reduce the overrepresentation of Māori in the overall justice system?
We don't have specific targets that we're holding ourselves to. We are tracking the impact on Māori across a whole range of different statistics. So we're tracking the impact, obviously, incarceration and victimisation. We will ask questions. When we did the Access to Justice survey, we asked questions about that broke out how Māori and other groups experience the justice system. So it's actually, I don't think it's as simplistic to have one or two targets, but I agree with you that it's actually an important thing to track. It is a real measure of need, and we do track it in a range of different ways.
Well, one of the targets we got to very clear with the police and corrections is that there's actually been little to no movement over a long period of time. So we know how it's going. They're going nowhere. So what then is required to see some actual traction when it comes to reducing the Māori prison population, reducing the amount of Māori who have a negative interaction with the police, reducing Māori and their ability to achieve justice through the justice system? Because none of those things are coming down at all. And we have a long history to look back on. We have new reports in 2023, yet it continues to go nowhere. So what do we do about that? As the parent body, the matua body, you gotta pull some lever. So what do you think?
Well, I suspect my colleague agencies might not call me the matua body in this space. And I would invite Sheridan, if you want to come and join in this conversation, Sheridan, to do so. But look, that you have identified in your questioning an unambiguous need, a weakness in the way that the justice system functions. So this is Sheridan Smith, who's our GM for strategy, and is that stand-in for Marcus Akuhata-Brown, who's the GM of the Aotearangi Strategy Group at the moment. So the questions you raise are questions about how effectively the justice system is functioning. The justice system in that context is a small part of a much bigger set of societal questions that relate to poverty, that might relate to intergenerational disadvantage and a range of other issues. All of those things contribute to the experiences in the justice system. The justice system tends to be a lag indicator rather than a lead indicator, and other forms of disadvantage will spill over into the justice system. But notwithstanding that, we recognise that, and so that has gone to a range of things about how people are experiencing the justice system. My colleagues will have no doubt talked about it, some of that experience in their place. For us, we have put an investment in over the last few years, which I think is very well grounded in what the recent Cabinet Office directive has required of us, which is need. If you think about the needs of the communities you connect with, we have invested in trying to build more capability internally so we can understand Māori perspectives on the justice system, and that has led us to think differently and work in some places. Te ao marama that was raised before is not targeted just at Māori, but it is asking the question, how has the court system been experienced by different peoples And obviously part of that then would go to Māori as it would go to people with disabilities.
Do you have
or
a
elsewhere.
dedicated Māori strategy? Te Māori is for everybody. Do you have a dedicated Māori one?
We have a dedicated a framework for outcomes called Te Whao, which does go to how we think about better equipping ourselves to meet that need that we see there.
Right.
But I don't know, Sheridan, did you want to?
Does Te Whao have targets?
It doesn't yet. It was only launched late last year, and the next part of the work that we need to do is have the measures and the indicators, and that will help us determine what interventions are working. But if I could also add that I'll make two comments. One is around, I think I'll come back to our monitoring role across the system, but secondly, one of the other interventions that we have been able to put in place through our courts is called Whakāorangia Te Mana Tangata. And we have that in 3 locations, Kaitaia, Gisborne and Kaikohe, whānau-centred initiative, working with offenders going through the criminal court, victims and their whānau. And we've had 833. We do whānau hui, we do support plans, and we've recently have going through some evaluation of that at the moment, and the early indications are that it's showing really good results because it's whānau driven, it's whānau initiative. But it does, our levers in the system are somewhat limited. We have to work with other agencies, we work with the judiciary.
So how do we get over that? Because that seems to be the key, is everybody working together. So we got it crystal clear from corrections that despite being more prepared than they have ever been before, they still can't achieve this on their own. So what needs to happen in order to get the cross-agency work programs thought out, rationalised against the available evidence and all of that, and then underway? What needs to happen to make that?
So what is happening? I mean, the program that Sheridan outlined, there are other similar sorts of programs that are quite deliberate about drawing the strengths of community and the strengths of different agencies into the problem. So there's a way, there's a range of these sorts of things. The Whakāorangia e Mana Tangata is a particular version of that, but there's also the integrated support response, which is a process that wraps around care around family violence victims and tries to draw on the strengths of all different agencies. Part of the answer to this is actually how you work locally, right where the need is, and you see what is necessary locally, and you bring that support from around. That, I mean, you're right to highlight it as a thing the system has struggled with, because we do struggle with that. We actually to get to the point where we're all working together means we've got to actually go out of our kind of our typical silos where a lot of our accountability lines run. But that's a recognised problem, and we're putting quite a lot of effort into it. In the family violence space, we have an interdepartmental executive board, Puna Aonui, and that is where we've quite formally brought a range of agencies together. We've fronted in front of this committee to talk as a collective of agencies, recognising that actually we've got to break down some of the barriers that go between agencies, some of the natural defaults that keep us in our silos, and identify how we work across them.
So just lastly then, between yourself, the Commissioner of Police and the CEO at Corrections, do you think it's within your guys' 3 capacity to make that happen?
Not just our 3, no. What is in our capacity is to identify how we can integrate together and work out processes together. But the problems I'm talking about, actually, I do work with a lot of other chief executives. It's not just those 2. It's MSD, it's health, it's housing, it's all of those ones, because it's actually, that's the broader group that you've got to try and bring together in order to really solve some of those problems. And it's hard.
Okay. It's hard being in prison as well.
Absolutely.